Hey there, I'm Sammy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to build this custom wood base that I have on this dresser right here. I've put this base on a few dressers now and I just love how easy and affordable it is. This is a great beginner-friendly DIY project as it can really elevate your piece and only cost you about $15 depending on wood prices near you. So keep watching if you want a step-by-step guide on how I built this base. For this base, I'll be using pine boards and I have two different sizes. I have a 1x3 that I'm going to be using for the frame of the base, and I have a 2x2 that I'm going to be using for all four of the legs that you see. The first step is going to be measuring your piece of furniture. I started off by measuring the length and the width of my base. Now that I've got my measurements, I need to account for the legs. Since 2x2s measure 1.5 inches, we're going to subtract 3 inches from the total measurement since there's going to be a leg on either end. Here, I'm first measuring the front piece of the base, taking the time to double check my measurements, ensuring that I'm subtracting 3 inches to account for both legs like we talked about earlier. Like they always say, measure twice, cut once. Then I went ahead and measured out my side pieces from a different 1x3. I brought both of these pieces to my miter saw and cut them to size. Once I had one side piece cut, I used that as a guide for my next piece, lining it up to the edge and marking it. Now that I have the frame pieces cut, we're going to focus on the legs. I typically like to make mine 5.5 inches as I find it to be a good height for most dressers, but feel free to make your own adjustments. Here I'm marking the length and then using a straight edge to mark the desired angle that I would like on the front legs. First, I'm cutting the angle I marked before I cut the legs to length because it's such an awkward cut to make. I like to align the blade with my angle on my wood, then clamp the piece of wood to my miter saw and hold on to the long end of the wood so I don't get my fingers anywhere near the blade. Now that I have the angle cut, I can cut this leg to the 5.5 inches I wanted. I used the first leg to mark the angle on the second leg so they would be identical. I only angle my front two legs as you really can't see the back ones and it will give just a little more stability to leave them whole. To cut the two back legs, I'm using the measuring guide on the saw so I get an accurate measurement every time. The next step is going to be sanding everything. I'm using my orbital sander with a 220 grit sandpaper to smooth over any rough edges. I like to use a sanding block for the legs because they're smaller and my sander is very powerful, so I try to keep my fingers away from it. To get my base ready to assemble and attach to the dresser, I'll be using my Kreg jig to drill pocket holes. First, I'm drilling 2 pocket holes on both ends of the side pieces, and these holes will be used for screwing on the legs. Next, I'm drilling 2 pocket holes spaced out evenly, and this is where I will use screws to attach it to the dresser. You can always add more pocket holes if you have a larger dresser, but I felt 2 was appropriate for this dresser. For the front piece, I'm also drilling 2 pocket holes on either end to screw into the legs. And because this piece is much longer, I'm drilling 5 pocket holes evenly spaced out to secure it to the dresser. I just eyeball my spacing by first starting by making 1 in the middle, then 1 on each end, and 1 more in between each end and middle hole. Alright, it is time to assemble everything now, and there's just one key thing to note while you're putting it together, because I have definitely messed up on this before. This is going to be the back leg, other back leg, and then obviously my two front legs. When you're attaching the sides and the front piece, you want to make sure that the holes you have drilled are facing the correct way. So you're going to drill the screw up this way. You don't want them sitting down like this. So this is the correct way and how it should look, so you can screw in. This is incorrect. To screw everything together, I use the 1.5 inch Kreg jig screws. I like to align my board, then place my screws in so I can drill both in at once. When I'm aligning the side to the leg, I don't go all the way to the edge and I leave just a sliver because I like the look better. I'm starting with the two side pieces and attaching the legs to them. Lastly, I attach the front piece to the two side pieces. Alright, we have our base put together now, and the last step is kind of just decide what you want it to look like. I'm going to make mine a little bit darker and stain it, and then seal it really quick, and it should be good to go. But before we do that, we got to make sure it fits, so let's go check that. After making sure the base fits, it's time to stain. I'm using a pre-stain for this because it's pine wood and doesn't accept stain very well, so pre-stain will help even everything out. Next, I'm going in with a dark walnut stain, and for a sealer, I'm using a wipe-on poly. I find it to be a very easy application and will leave you with a very nice glazed finish. It was time to get the base inside and put it on our dresser. I'm using the same 1.5 inch Kreg jig screw to attach it to the dresser. I'm starting at one end, making sure everything is aligned and working my way around, drilling in each screw. And there you have it. We now have a beautiful base to complete this piece. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in seeing the full makeover on this dresser, I will be posting a video about it next week. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.